Welcome to Hotline TV, everybody. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Amy Walter. All right, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is the biggest Senate diva of them all? And by mirror, I mean you.
That's right. I know what you mean, little Amy. All right, for months, each week a new senator has been declared the crucial vote in the Senate health care debate, only for the spotlight to then shift to another senator. Sadly and painfully.
It is painfully. And when that spotlight shines, each of those senators seems to channel his or her own internal diva. You know, it's hard when the lights are on you. You want to just grab onto that.
You wear that extra special suit in the morning. You know, you do your hair up well. You know you're going to be on TV. You know you're going to be on the front page of the New York Times
every day.
And you want to look extra special. There are the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like there are on soap operas, just like there are on Desperate Housewives. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Divas. Let's talk about each of them. Amy Walter, go.
All right, so when we're talking about good in the sense, it means that you are able to use your diva-ness, your powers to get something that you can then translate into political success down the road.
Right.
Mary Landrieu is not up for re-election this year,
but
it's around the corner. She knows that she has to always be careful in a red state like Louisiana.
For sure.
She went into this deal saying, I'm going to get something for Louisiana. She cut the Louisiana purchase.
If you will.
What was it, $100 million?
$100 million for Medicaid. Expansion in the state of Louisiana.
There you go. She has something to take and talk about as here. Not only are we helping bring health care to millions of uninsured Americans, but I'm looking out for the people of Louisiana.
And she's able to, in the process, make David Vitter, who is up for re-election in 2010, look bad. There's been a lot of coverage over the past week or two since she cut the deal with Harry Reid to vote for cloture. A lot of coverage of the fact that Vitter was nowhere to be found when this big bag of money fell on Louisiana. So that is something he's having to defend for having essentially done nothing. The second, all right, so she would be my pick for good, my chick for good. My pick for good, I meant to say. Anybody else that you would consider a good diva in this situation?
Well, we're going to come back to this. I mean, in some ways, Joe Lieberman was good in that he got what he wanted.
We'll see about that.
And then we'll see what that ultimately comes down to.
But what does he really want? That's the question. All we know is what Joe Lieberman doesn't want.
All right, so the bad.
The bad diva in this situation, and not bad in the sense that we're talking about her motives, but I'm going to put Blanche Lincoln in this category. She faces re-election in 2010. She is the red state Democrat who does seem to be watching the polls with her ear to the ground, looking at the political tenor in her state. She increasingly faces Republican opposition in her state. She looks like she now might face Democratic opposition as well in her Senate race for not being more of a forceful supporter of the public option and other issues, other liberal priorities on health care. So to some extent, I think she looks like the bad diva in the sense that her motives are being construed through this whole process as extremely, if not completely, political.
And she's not showing that she's getting something out of the deal.
Exactly.
Right, that she's constantly being pulled and pushed and questioned, and she comes out every day saying, well, I'm encouraged or by this or discouraged by that, but it never seems like she's coming from a position of power in this.
Exactly.
As opposed to somebody like Olympia Snowe, who came out, who I'd also put in the good, even though she's been overshadowed, but she came out and I think has gotten herself big kudos from people in Maine, even though in the end, she'll probably end up voting against this thing, which is quite remarkable. She might,
unless there's a trigger in it, unless they do take the public option out, which now looks like they might. I think she's actually a really good person to put in the good category. She's having direct negotiations. She's the only Republican senator right now having direct negotiations with the White House. And they actually have voiced preference to the trigger option as opposed to the public as opposed to the Medicare buy-in, as opposed to the opt-out buy-in, not to get too much into policy. They prefer Snow's approach to the one in the current Senate bill. Of course, they support the Senate bill. All right, let's get to the ugly.
All right, now
I think we agree on this.
I think we do. I mentioned Joe Lieberman earlier as the good in that he got what he wanted, but at what cost, right? And that is something that you pointed out earlier today. Look, the guy is. It is not possible that he could run and win re-election in 2012.
There's a roadmap that some people lay out there that what he's trying to do, he knows he's not going to get the Democratic nomination. He's just trying to build as much support among Republicans and independents to make this bid. I don't believe that's true. I don't believe in a state like Connecticut that Lieberman is following any sort of strategy on this health care bill, among other things, that would lead to a re-election campaign in 2012, especially on this Medicare buy-in issue, where It would have been one thing if he had just come out as opposed to it, but of course yesterday House Democrats circulated video showing him being interviewed just a few months ago in September of 2009 by a Connecticut newspaper saying that he supported exactly the same program that he's now saying he opposes. His rationale is that it wasn't included in a Democratic health bill at the time that he voiced support for it, which to me makes no sense. That's one ugly diva.
Oh, wow. All right. So, we now move on to last words. All right. Who?
Yes, we do.
We do, our last words.
Yes.
Who do we think will be the next divas? The spotlight, as we said, keeps moving.
That's so true, and I think that we see, you can't spell Jim Webb without D-I-V-A. Actually, you can, but
there's a B.
There's a B and a M and a W, and
but anyway,
things like that, and an E and an I and a J. But I believe that Jim Webb has been relatively quiet,
very quiet
during this whole process. He speaks to local groups in Virginia and says he's uncommitted on the overall bill and on specific parts of it. But he has voted with Republicans on I believe four of the 6 amendments that have hit the floor so far. That spells trouble for Democrats. That spells diva, if you know what I'm saying.
And he's another one, too, that has been talked about as someone who is less than likely to run in 2012, right? There's always been rumors that he's not happy here. He doesn't want to run for re-election. He doesn't have a whole lot to lose for standing out and not sticking with the Democratic voice. All right. I would agree.
You would agree with me?
I would agree with your Jim Webb-ness. I don't know that we'll see him take full-on diva mode. I think he stays in the background, much like Ron Wyden has stayed in the background. We know that he's a very critical voice in all of this. But I think they like being sort of in the shadows right now. He may not have a choice. The spotlight may find him.
Right, the spotlight may find him, as it often finds you and myself. But unfortunately, we are getting away from the topic. We are just about out of time for today.
All right, until next time, we'll see you on Hotline TV.